Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 3 of Tomo-Chan is a Girl. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, Jun just sort of casually revealed that he and Misuzu dated, and it seems like this is a bit of a revelation for Tomo, and not an entirely welcome one. You know, it's not like it's a big issue on its own, but I guess the idea that they sort of left her out is worrying. So, I can't help but feel that perhaps Tomo is assuming malice where stupidity might be the better explanation here. At least on Jun's part, you know, he doesn't seem all that conniving, but Misuzu, she certainly is conniving, although she has the reasonable excuse that she didn't know Tomo was interested, so, you know, it's not really a transgression. I mean, I guess it does make sense on her part that she's not really proud of that, you know, it being like a middle school relationship. I mean, by her own admission, it even only lasted 3 days, which, I mean, I guess you count it if you have nothing else to go off of, but you know, I don't think it's unreasonable to discount something like that altogether. And based on how it's being depicted here, you know, it doesn't really seem like there is any substance behind any of it. You know, Misuzu was just doing it to sort of, I guess, get a leg up socially. Yeah, this does seem like clumsy and middle school-ish to a degree, you know. Misuzu just automatically agrees to go on this cycling date, and, you know, cycling, I feel like that's not really a romantic activity unless both people involved are, you know, dedicated cyclists. And I guess Jun had something reasonable in mind, you know, bike and get a nice view of nature. But on the other hand, I feel like biking isn't exactly conducive to a date, especially if you want to get to know your date, you know. Talking and cycling they aren't really two things that go all that well together. I guess it makes sense that after such a sort of lackluster date that Misuzu would be unwilling to continue going out with him. Although it is funny enough that Jun actually sort of made the first move. I mean, I feel like that's got to be a bit of a blow to her ego, even if she did have the same idea. Man, Tomo's right. That does sort of put a lot of things into perspective, seeing as how they don't really get along. It's not just the animosity between a couple that didn't work out, Misuzu treats this as a stain on her honor that she was dumped rather than being the person who did the dumping. So nevertheless, in these 3 days, Misuzu, she and Jin were calling each other by their first names and holding hands, obviously, that they would have something like this in an anime uncensored on broadcast television, shame on the studio, honestly, but, that's a pretty high bar for Tomo to overcome. I mean, we all saw it. They were just holding hands barehanded and everything. Kids these days, man. So, I'm wondering if Misuzu's maybe playing another angle here. It seems like she's sort of teasing Jin a little bit, right after we broke up, you and Tomo became really good friends. And, it's like they were friends before, but it seems like things really solidified. I could sort of see where Tomo's coming from here if this was essentially a secret that all her friends knew. Well, not that it was necessarily a secret, but she was the only person who didn't know. That's not a fun position to be in, even if there is no sort of foul play or subterfuge going on. So now, Misaki from the Karate Club, he's taking the opportunity to talk to Tomo, and it seems like Jin doesn't really know anything about their relationship, so naturally, I can only assume he would jump to the worst possible conclusion. I mean, he says it was just a reflex to smack him over the head, but, yeah, I think that speaks towards some of his worst impulses here. To just sort of, automatically resort to violence and violate the non-aggression principle. I mean, at the very least, he has Tomo sort of acting as an arbitrator to put him in a headlock when he steps out of line, but, I'm noticing a pattern here where he does seem to sort of immediately resort to physical violence. I mean, I guess if for no other reason than the safety of the public at large, Tomo should probably just, jump on that grenade, so to speak. So this is an interesting wrinkle in their ongoing dynamic. Tomo's hanging out with Carol and Misuzu, and as a result, they're not walking home. And while Jun seems kind of disappointed, he's not really being assuaged by Tomo's promises that, oh, we'll walk home tomorrow. I mean, I can kind of get where he's coming from. This is, a cherished routine, after all, walking home with your best bro. So Tomo sort of threatened him to make good with Misaki. Somehow I feel like this isn't going to go as planned. Tomo made it pretty clear to him, you better straighten things out or else. But, obviously Misaki doesn't want anything to do with him. Who can blame the guy? But seeing as how they have to ride the same bus, he's sort of like a captive audience here. He can't really get away. I mean, I guess at the very least, they seem to have some common ground in that Tomo is able to beat both of them up. Misaki's a little incredulous, seeing as I always heard Tomo sort of express the opposite. Jun could beat me up. But it's interesting how their relationship just involves punching each other a lot and how that's sort of just normal for them. I mean, I guess Jun's making a bit of a rational argument here, When Tomo beats on him, she's not playing around, so, you can't exactly put on the kid gloves, but at the same time, you can't just go full Chris Brown on her for obvious reasons. Jun's kind of in a difficult position, I'd imagine. Now, unfortunately, Jin did divulge a lot of interesting information, but, Misaki's gonna have to keep it to himself or else. And I feel like, maybe he's going to let something slip here. Even if it's just, Jin threatened me with bodily harm again. Okay, so it would seem as though Jin's just sort of like this to all guys that Tomo tries to introduce him to. I think she's trying to find him friends a little too eagerly, It's not that he doesn't want to be friends with people, it's that he sees them more as competition, I'd imagine. Oh dear, here we go. Misaki was, in all likelihood, about to blab. Surely this would have caused trouble, but Jin managed to intervene and do so surreptitiously enough to prevent violence from breaking out. I mean, that's progress. So it seems like those girls from before are sort of, gossiping a little bit, It would behoove them to perhaps look over their shoulder before they start talking smack. Unfortunately, it seems like they just can't win with Tomo, It's weird when she wears a skirt, I guess it's weird when she wears pants too, no winning for her. I wonder if those two girls are going to become recurring characters. This is the second time they've shown up and they haven't really been too important as to the plot. I think they'd be interesting as kind of like occasional verbal punching bags. So Masuza's dropping some knowledge here, You have to spend time with Jin, but you can't always do the same sort of like sports-related things you always do. Maybe try going for karaoke or going to the mall and shopping, something like that. And, obviously it's going to be a bit strange. And personally, I think it'd be a bit strange too. I don't really go to the mall. I definitely don't sing in public. But, I don't know, bringing a friend that you want to be romantically involved with, I think that would add another layer to it. Nevertheless, Tomo's taking up her friend's advice, and it seems to be the correct approach. Alright, so Big Brain Masuzu here, you can't think of it as a date, or rather, you have to think of it as a date. You can't think of it as hanging out. If you change your mindset, the outcome will change in accordance with that as you work towards different goals. So, it seems as though Carol, in her sort of simplistic way, is offering help as well. Tomo, surely you must be joking if you're saying you're going to wear boys' clothes to a date. You have to wear something more girly. Now that said, you can't just go 0 to 60. You have to take a bit of a slow approach here. But, Carol, there's not a lot going on upstairs, but she certainly has a firm grasp on the truth. And it seems like she has an inherent sense of fashion that, don't wear this color would be better, and all that. In a weird sort of way, Carol and Masuzu are a potent and terrifying team. That they both add something, and they're both effectual in the thing they're trying to achieve. I mean, at this point, only Tomo can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, with Masuzu and Carol sort of prepping her up. I mean, even she realizes that they're an unfortunately powerful team. That is an interesting outfit thinking about it, and I don't know, those are like a weird, really baggy-legged pants or something. Sort of like a weird cross between pants and a dress. Yeah, that's very interesting. That would not be the logical first step in my mind, but I don't know. I'm not particularly fashion conscious. So it seems like Tomo is almost discounting advice, and that they're just sort of going to the batting cage and bowling and all that. I guess baby steps, I guess. Tomo did wear a different outfit, but I don't know. If nothing else, the two of them seem to be having fun, and I guess that's half the battle, really. Of course, Tomo is now finally heeding her friend's advice, We can't just do what we always do, we have to do something different. It seems like it's almost backfiring on her, She suggested it, he agreed, and she assumed that he wouldn't go along with it. It's interesting how the little angel and devil on her shoulder are both Masuzu and Carol, but they're also sort of giving her the same advice. It's an interesting dynamic where, no matter who you're trying to get advice from, they all tell you the same thing and you're still hesitant to do it. So this is an interesting little bit of perspective. Way back in the day when they were kids, Jun didn't really like doing all the stuff that Tomo did, but he just sort of did it because she was his friend. And, that's sort of what he's doing right now, too, in a sense. You know, I'm almost wondering if this song she's singing is sort of like a children's song or something. But she hasn't noticed that Jin is surreptitiously filming her. That's going to be blackmail material for years to come. Like, that's not going away. That's going right up on the internet immediately. Oh dear. You know, I can almost imagine that this might be sort of like something for Jun and Misuzu to kind of agree on here. That they can, you know, come together to tease Tomo about something like this. I mean, obviously Tomo's embarrassed, but, you know, the whole thing isn't a total loss when you think about it. Because I guess, if nothing else, Jun is feeling a little guilty. But I don't know, Misuzu and Carol certainly seem to want to watch the video. Alright, so you know, if nothing else, that whole thing planted the seed in Jun's mind that something's going on here. So it seems like this whole idea of going to sing karaoke wasn't just a suggestion for Tomo. You know, Misuzu wanted to bring Tomo and Carol along just to do it, you know. If only to show Tomo, like, what you're really supposed to do. You know, it's interesting that there's a wide variety of songs they're singing, but you know, Tomo really can't escape the stigma of singing children's songs. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.